Hey y'all, welcome to Other Realm Studio. I'm Paula and I will be working not on this map that I have up here today. I just thought it looked interesting for right now. This is a map of the Other Realm, or a small corner of the world. So these are our two main nations, Caldera and Inek. And there's Mount Riesa and the Arachne Forest, plains, an ash field that used to be a town. Used to be in here. And today, I'm about to do some shading on some of the bonus art that's going to be included with the comic. Now today is it's been interesting, yeah, let's put it that way. So what I've done today, I'm not sure whether it was a good idea or not, but we'll see. I've taken out a Facebook ad. I boosted one of my posts about my Kickstarter and something like 200 people have seen it, and I don't know if it's actually going to do any good or not. But I have all these hundreds of copies of comics to do something with. And I can easily scale up how many comics to anywhere from 500 to 5,000 copies. So I would really, really love to sell out. Oh, I have not figured out where the light is coming from in this picture. I'm going to call this Noon on her side. Okay, let's see. Although there is a little bit of a line back here behind her. So the way I do the shadows is by adding a layer above our color layer and changing it from normal to multiply. There's other ways you can do it. A lot of people like, let's see, there's different things. There's just simple darken, and I'm not quite sure what all of them are, because you can see here that there is quite a list of effects that you can use with the different colors. But multiply is easy to remember. So that's what I'm going with. Oh, I thought I had just changed. Okay, there we are. Let's back that up. And I'm going to try to figure out exactly where the light's hitting and what sort of shadow it would cast, which is easier said than done. Let's see, about it's really hard to say. There's a formula for calculating shadows, but unfortunately I don't know it. when I was in college at the first place, there was a very talented guy who could do realistic shadows, and he actually knew the proper way to calculate them out, where they would fall and everything. Unfortunately, he was a little bit arrogant and didn't want to do the assignments. And he was also gifted at avoiding work. So what he would do is, for all of his assignments in the different classes, he'd do like one. And of course they wouldn't be exactly what the assignment was, but it would be like one good art piece. And he'd show them separately at like... Oh. Yeah, he'd show them separately and assume that the teachers didn't talk to each other, which they did. So they noticed. I don't know if it was technically against a rule or not. But I do remember that the teachers weren't very happy with him. So let's see. We've got some really long strands of grass here to work with on Torin's side, and we'll keep Becca's side, yeah, very trimmed up and tame. What are we going to do about his shadows? Yeah, his shadows are going to come along more this side. But it's also going to be a little harder to see where those shadows would be because of all the long grass. At least as far as the ground shadow. Hey Kristen, how you doing? One of the interesting things that I've found is that no matter what you've spent your life doing, you come back to it somehow. So I remember being in Pennsylvania, tagging along to car shows. And essentially growing up as the vendors' kids. And now I go to Comic Cons, which are just like car shows, but with fewer cars. There are still some cars, strangely. There's like the Mystery Mobile and the or the Mystery Machine, and the Batmobile. Sorry, got them mixed up. Tried to say them both at the same time. And Ecto 1. I see those at all the local shows. But yeah, it's all laid out the same. Kind of weird. Comic Cons feel a little bit like home, but not in the sense, not so much in the sense of all the comics, because there's still a bunch that I don't recognize yet, but in the way that it's laid out with all the vendors and how things are done. Let's see. Let's not... Okay. So I had to select a spot so that I didn't trace into my figure. Right here. So yeah, today I took out the Facebook ad, and I don't know. We shall see. That's all I can even say about it. I mean, it did say I had a small credit to apply. It took me a few tries, actually. I was a little bit concerned that I was going to get charged twice, because the first time nothing happened, and I had to go back and find it again and figure out what step I hadn't completed, because it looked like it went through. It was really strange. But it went through now. I'm getting like statistics off of it, and something like 216 people have seen it. Okay. I wasn't sure what to put for who to show the ad to, so I like my story. I would hope that people I have things in common with would like this comic. So essentially, yeah, I put me in there. It'll be interesting if it ends up showing me my own ad 200 times. So let's see, I did a whole bunch of just fantasy and fantasy books, fantasy novels, high fantasy. It's not so much high fantasy, but I guess it is in the realm of it. Beauty and the Beast, Inuyasha. Which really, I think that my story is a little bit like the more American Western civilization version of Inuyasha, because it kind of starts off with Inuyasha starts off with a lot of Japanese mythology, which is really fascinating. I mean, I'm gonna have to catch up on it a bit more. There's a lot of weird creatures in Japanese mythology. So I do have a little bit of that kind of thing going on in mine. but the traditions are more from Greek and Roman and English sources. I've even got some, well, I hope I can remember to work in the reference to Joan of Arc. And I even have a bit of a Frankenstein vibe going on. Or not Frankenstein precisely, more like the island of Dr. Moreau. So things that are a little bit more modern. Okay, now that I've warmed up and figured out where the shadows are going to lie, I'm going to pick a color. That's going to be interesting. And start doing the shade on Becca's clothes. Let's see. We'll work out more of the shape to it. Oh, thank you, autosave. It's saving a lot lately. So let me just work out exactly where these shadows are going to hit. I kind of think there's a little bit of a line missing right here. So that can happen sometimes with like vector art, because at least I've noticed. Yeah, I'll be trying to do line art with vectors and it makes the art a lot smoother, but I'm also kind of prone to accidentally erasing things that I meant to keep. I really think I can do the whole back of this shaded, and then if it needs any the lighter spots picked out, I can do that later. But let me see, in the inks, I can do a few things. Oh yes, and it's locked, so I don't accidentally do things. So, yeah, that looks better for the sleeve. What's going on right there? So, even though I am an artist, I did still have, I had Mia do the art for me for most of it. But, you know, we've been working together, and There, that's better. So we've been working together on like the concepts for each page and everything. So it's really very helpful to have a background in art when hiring an artist, because I know more about what's possible, what she can do, what I would do in her position. Let's see. You know, why she makes choices that she does with design. And I don't go around trying to second guess, because, you know, I see where she's going with it. Let's see. I think this is more... Yeah, this will work better with a more purple tint. On the little capri pants that Becca's wearing in this picture. And I've really kind of fallen in love with the whole coloring thing. It's a lot of fun. It's very relaxing. In kind of an engaging, problem-solving sort of way, where you're picking out what colors will work best and how to enhance the artwork without obliterating it, and where the light's coming from. But there's still a nice framework to work with that already exists.
Good night.
Good night. See you in the morning. Oh, my son's gone to bed. After winning at Fortnite. Let's see. We'll go with this shade right here for the skin tone shade. It's going to look like a pretty drastic shadow. But it's, let's see. Yeah, for a minute it's just going to look like it's a really drastic shadow. One of those things like, maybe you shouldn't have done that, but it'll work out. So one of the things that I worked together with Mia on was the pose of my characters. See, I didn't have the gutter in between their scenes, I just had a line, but she copied my sketch, well, with the gesture in the sketch, pretty exactly, especially with Becca's pose here, with her being a little priss. So that turned out exactly the way I wanted it to look. And she brought in so many more details for Torin's clothes and everything. So I'm really happy. And it's nice to not to have to do everything myself. I kind of feel like I have somebody on my side here. And also well, to start off with, I found Mia, I discovered her talent when she was still in college. So I'm sure that starting to get freelance art gigs that soon was a help. And I'm really looking forward to hiring her for the next 9 issues of this story. It's going to be awesome. And her work's so beautiful. And I hope I can continue coloring it. Although, I do have 1 or 2 people in mind. If it turns out that I need to write faster, and I can actually afford to have the coloring done, as well. I would prefer to have Mia do the art, well, the line art, this bit. Oh, that looks interesting. Looks like watercolor. Okay. I'd like to have her on the art, but it's not critical for me to do the colors. There's probably better people than me at it, who have been practicing longer. So I'm going to go, it's going to look like I'm doing this really dark on her face, but I'm going to do the same thing that I did for, was it this one? No, it was this one. No, it was this one. The same thing that I did here, where I added the overlay layer after the shadows, which if I take that away, you can see, well, that's just little highlights. If I take that away, you can see how much more harsh these shadows are. But I did the overlay in a lighter color to show that the light was being cast by a fireplace down off where you can't really see it. So I am going to have to be careful not to make too many lines in her face, because that will be instantly aging. And she's only like 5 in this picture. I mean, the story picks up again when she's about 20. Okay, so you can see how much better that goes in since I added more shading to it. You'd think that it wouldn't, but it does. It works. I got so used to working on paper. It took me a while to teach myself to not worry about having to erase. Okay, so this right here, if I color in this space slightly more, then it drastically changes the shape of her face. See, let me show you. Like here, her face looks really round, but if I color it in just a little bit closer in, she's starting to get like some cheekbones. She looks a little older, like maybe 8. So I don't want to do too much of that. But you can get a pretty drastic effect just with a few shadows. Let's see. There's going to be more shade around her nose. So let me carefully take that down so she doesn't look like a puppy. And let's see, the mountains over here need some shading, but I think Becca herself is about done. So I'm going to go ahead and start the overlay layer. Come up here to layer, new raster layer, change it to overlay. Come over here, pick pale tone, and well, you can either pick like a yellow, or you can go back to just plain white for bright sunshine and pick a gradient. But before you pick a gradient, you kind of need to select the panel that you're working in, because the light in these panels, each one is going to be slightly different. Becca's is mostly overhead and in front, and Torin's is mostly to his right. Let's pick the panel, select that so our gradient doesn't sweep over the entire page, which I kind of hate when that happens. And because this isn't a fireplace, it's not a small contained circular flame here, we're going to be using the straight line gradient and coming down across this way. Let me see. Alright, that didn't do enough, so well, that really washed everything out though. So maybe what I should do instead of going with white is go with a blue. Definitely not. Yeah, it just seems too heavy. I can tone down the opacity of it. To about 30. Yeah, I think that works. So if I hide it, you can see it does look different, and it catches her hair differently, especially. So I need to remember to go back to multiply and finish her hair, by the way. So let's go back into light grayish. Her hair's going to have these kind of mauve highlights in it. Well, not highlights. Shadows in it. Switch back to my pen. So this is all going to be bonus material for the comic. The rest of it's done. Can't believe it. It's been a long road. But I'll be including this, so instead of 20 pages of story, you get 28 pages of story plus some bonus art. Let's see, we'll go back in the color and clean up some of these edges again. Okay. And let's go back to multiply and finish what I was doing before I forget what it was. I don't have very long to draw tonight. I still have a few things that I need to finish up, and I gotta go to bed at some point. Something very important that I have not yet done. I didn't prep the coffee. Hey, Deborah. And hello, Jeff Hughes. It's nice to see you around. I appreciate y'all stopping by. And, yeah, I need to try and get an earlier start tomorrow, so I can get this finished. And well, what else? A lot of things, actually. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not quite happy with the amount of shadow right here on her nose now that I'm zoomed way in on it. Oh, I forgot my glasses. Yeah, I'm not wearing the glasses for my eyesight so much as I am wearing these because they're my blue blocker ones. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I hope I get a lot of people who really love it. I mean, I love it. And the line art is by Mia Pierce, and I have Wes Loker on the lettering, fortunately. Yeah, I tried to do the lettering at first, and it didn't work out. I just don't know enough. Yeah, I'm just going to soften out the edges of this shadow. Let's see. No, that's too much. So yeah, I haven't done any grocery shopping. I gotta get an earlier start tomorrow and do that. But I kind of, I don't like a grocery store anymore. They moved across from where they used to be, and I don't like it. It's harder to get out of the parking lot. So I have to go really early. Even though the store itself is nicer, they don't have some of the stuff that I've been relying on getting. So now I gotta find a different store and learn my way around it. My pleasant rut has been undone. Okay, I noticed that there are a couple little jagged spots here where the autofill did not quite behave. I'm going to smooth that out. Go back to multiply and let's figure out what we're going to do about the mountains. So if I match the quality of the lines, and then fill those in, it should look alright. But I don't want to get too detailed with the mountains because they are just in the background, and I don't really want them distracting from our main figures. So yeah, some of this is just straight up coloring book type coloring, staying in the lines and behaving, and some of it is interpretation. So let's see, that's probably enough. I also want to put a little bit more shading in her eyes and give them some depth. And put some white for the highlights. It is going to be pretty small though in the printed version, so I don't know how much that'll actually matter. But as long as I'm zoomed in on it this far, I might as well. Okay, so Becca's side might be done. So let me come up here to view, fit to screen, can deselect. Yeah, I could probably stand a little bit more short grass in the background here. But I think I will go ahead and move on to Torrin's clothes. Okay, remember the light's coming from over here to the right. And one of the advantages to having the shadows come from slightly different directions is that means that the shadows that they cast will be pointing pretty much towards each other. Or the lines of the shadows will tend to want to meet. So it kind of brings a very subtle focal point to the whole piece. Which is something that I tried to do with, one of these. Yeah, here in this center panel, the sunlight's coming from about here behind the trees. So several of them are casting shadows here. But also you have the lines of the hills that have their own shadows in their depth that also go this way. And you can see that the lines of the hills, when Mia drew them in, they also come down and they point at the main figures in the group, in the picture. Oh, this is the one I'm working on. I'm so excited for issue 2. I know I haven't started, well, I haven't gotten any further than the script on it, but I'm so excited to see it in print. So I'm really hoping that, lots of people are gonna find the story on issue 1, and they'll come back for the second issue. And I'll just get to deliver a awesome story that lots of people love. And, you know, do it pretty much on my own. I mean, it's... Well, I mean, I did hire Mia and Wes to do it, and I'm very glad I have them on board, but I don't have a publisher waiting on me. This is my own project. I'm accountable to readers, and that's it. I hope to really find lots of readers then. I maybe should have gone over this a little more carefully before I got started on the shadows, because there are a few little specks in it. But I'll go over it and find them. It's no big deal. I neatened that up. I'm going to use some of this shade in this fur here for texture in a little bit, but I don't need it on there now. Let's see, and this shadow would be cast a little further this way to accommodate the folds. And this one would continue. Come up this way quite a bit more, yeah. So if this is leather, it's going to be kind of stiff and not have a whole lot of folds or wrinkles in it. Okay. And now I'll find a shade of green to hit my shading over here in the folds of his shirt. Let me come up here and hit that. Okay, it's almost 10 o'clock, so I had better finish this up and set up the coffee so I'll be ready in the morning. Important stuff. I know I don't feel done yet, so I keep trying to do a few more extra little details. I'm gonna have to leave it though. At least I got in here twice today. And as we get closer to the deadline, or as, well, closer to campaign's end, yeah, I'm probably going to want to do more work. So, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. And I'll see you in the other realm. Good night.